What's up, guys? Today we're going to be looking at a quick build guide for Shadow Priest deck in Hearthstone. And this is going to be our first Hearthstone video. And we're going to be taking a look at what cards are involved in the Shadow Priest deck, why I call it a Shadow Priest deck, and strengths and weaknesses for the deck. Now, a Priest deck normally runs with cards like Light Well and Light Spawn, monsters that either heal or provide you with some sort of effect whenever someone's healed, and then also monsters like the Gurubashi Berserker that once you get them on the field and they get buffed up, they tend to wreck pretty much. But in a Shadow Priest deck, you don't really have to rely on that as much, thankfully. So one of the strengths about Shadow Priest deck is that you don't have to rely on buffed monsters. You don't have to waste a bunch of turns throwing a monster out, then next turn having to buff it if it wasn't destroyed the turn before it, trying to get it buffed up. But in the Shadow Priest deck, you mainly rely on a lot of your spells, like Holy Smite. Whenever you use Holy Smite, it's a really good early board clearing card, as well as one of the later board clearing cards like Holy Nova. So, really good at board clearing and really good at taking out monsters without having to deal direct one-on-one fights with your minions. So, another thing about the Shadow Priest deck is that you have the Shadow Form card, which transforms your hero power from heal 2 to deal 2 damage, which is very strong. It's a 2 cost, 2 damage every turn that you can use, pretty much. The only bad thing is you have to wait to use the card up until about your 3rd turn, if you're lucky, and then you can use the actual deal 2 damage by your 4th turn, but again, that's if you're lucky and the person you're up against isn't playing a rush or a charge deck. So, really good board clearing, does lots of damage with spells. You also have the Shadow Word Pain and the Shadow Word Death, which helps out with clearing out minions, and then you also have your Dispels, which take out taunts and other stuff like that. You'll notice that I don't have the Temple Enforcer. I only have one Mind Control in the deck, and I do not have a Northshire Cleric at all, and I think I only have one Divine Spirits, one Power Word Shield, so definitely not focusing on the buffs at all, like you would in a normal Priest deck. Now, as far as minions go, one of the minions I always take in a Priest deck is the Shield Bearer, just because of the early taunt. Even though it doesn't have attack, it helps out a lot at low cost. It keeps you safe for the first few turns while you're trying to get your Shadow Form or any other damaging spells drawn out of your deck. Other minions that I'll take with me are the Kobold Geomancer. Spell damage, since you're going to be using your spells a lot, you want to increase your spell damage. I also take the Ogre Magi, which also increases spell damage. So definitely increasing spell damage is going to be critical. I take one Ogre Magi and one Kobold Geomancer instead of taking 2 of each, just because the Ogre Magi, since it's only a 4 and 4 and it's a 4 cost, it's not really worth the cost in my opinion, just because it doesn't give you anything like taunt, charge, anything like that. So that's one reason why I only take one of those. And then honestly, same thing with the Kobold Geomancer, but not so much that it's not worth the cost as it is just it dies really easily. You put it out and normally within 2 turns it's out of the field because it's just such a low health, low attack card. So that's another thing about the deck, just focusing on throwing in your spell damage cards. And you can throw in a Dalaran Mage, low attack but high health. It's probably a little bit more cost efficient than an Ogre Magi, but with the minions that I have in the deck, I don't really have as many high attack minions, so I tend to have the Ogre Magi over the Dalaran Mage just in case I need that extra attack. And also, as far as the damaging spells, getting into the higher cost cards, you definitely want to have cards like Holy Fire and Holy Nova. Holy Nova is probably the best board clearing ability of the Priest, just because 2 damage to all enemies is pretty sufficient, especially if you're up against a rush deck that doesn't have a lot of high health cards. That'll take out most of them, and then also restore 2 health to whatever cards and your hero at the same time. Holy Fire, probably the bread and butter of the late game as far as board clearing. Deals 5 damage, restores 5 health to your hero. It's a pretty strong card for only 6 costs. Take out most strong minions during late game, even mid game if you have to use it. So definitely always try to have these in your deck. If you don't have a Holy Fire, it only costs 100 dust to make. So disenchant any extra cards that you don't have and get up to 100 dust and make one. It's really going to help you out a lot. Now, another reason why I don't have 2 Mind Controls, I only have 1 in the deck, is because the Mind Control costs 10 mana, and you Mind Control, that's all you can do. And if you don't have any other minions, or if you don't have a no-cost spell like a Silence, you Mind Control, that's it for your turn. And you just better hope that whatever it is, it's either going to save you if you're in a bad spot, or they're not going to kill it if they suspected that you might have a Mind Control. On top of that, it really sucks when you start with a Mind Control in your hand out of your first 3 or 4 cards, because you've got a 10 cost card that you're not going to be able to use for 9 turns at least. So, and that's if they don't end up using a rush or a charge deck to destroy you before those 10 turns even come up. So I only run with 1 Mind Control. Lowers the chance of me drawing it on the first 3 or 4 cards on your hand. And it's even just having 1 can turn a game around. I've turned games around where I only had 2 or 3 health left and Mind Controlled the right minion and took down an opponent all the way down from 30 to 0. So other than that, you can pretty much fill in other minions the way you want. I kind of go with more defensive minions in some of them. I do take the Shattered Sun Cleric to buff up some minions. I'll take the Mogushan Warden, really good taunt, high health, low attack though, but the high health helps out with the taunt. Shield Master, if you have a taunt in your deck, you might as well have a Shield Master because he's probably one of the best early game taunts. And then I'll take a Nightblade just as kind of a mid-game, wouldn't really call it a scaring minion because it deals the damage and it kind of creates board presence at the same time. And then for another high cost minion, I'll put in my Priestess. Decent attack, decent health, but also restores health to your hero at the same time. So it's a really good way to get out and get some board presence with just 1 minion if you're in a bad spot. Cobalt Geomancer, like I said, and the Ogre Magi. I'll take a Silver Moon Guardian. I always try to have at least 1 Divine Shield in every deck, just because the Divine Shield will ward off attacks, even though it doesn't have taunt. It'll keep people from attacking it. So if you keep a Divine Shield out on the field and then next turn comes around, you can normally get it buffed up, help out with taking down minions by next turn. Novice Engineer, just because every deck should have a Novice Engineer, honestly. Even though they changed the stats on the Novice Engineer lately, they wanted to keep it as, you know, you don't have to have this card in your deck just because it's not that strong, but honestly, with it being a 2-cost 1/1 and the battle cry, just helps out a lot. So I would recommend always having a novice engineer in every deck. So that's pretty much a short rundown of the Shadow Priest deck. I will have a video later on of the Shadow Priest deck in action with either ranked or casual, and you'll get to see the effects of the Shadow Priest deck there. So go ahead and comment if you like the video. Go ahead and like and favorite and subscribe, and we'll have more videos to come.